Okay. I just want to mention before we actually get into the pages, something very interesting I heard about from the Lubavitcher Rebbe. I heard it over the Shabbos. It has to do Nogea to the period that we're in right now. When you have a situation like we do when we have Friday and Shabbos come together with Purim, we have it called a Purim Mishulash. So we have Yud Dalet is Friday, Shabbos is Tezvav, and because Shabbos is Tezvav, and you can't really have the Suda's Purim on Shabbos, so they have the Suda on Sunday. That's when it really come next. If it would be next month, for instance, if what happened this Shabbos, it would be next month. That's what would be in outside Yerushalayim or Chutz La'aretz. It would be Yud Dalet Friday, it would be Purim, and Shabbos would be for Eretz Yisrael, for Yerushalayim. But since you can't have the Suda's Purim on Shabbos because it's Shabbos, you have the Purim Suda on Sunday. Today would be the day that we have it. So today is, in a sense, the celebration of Purim Katan, which we had yesterday.
So you should, nevertheless, they said the Tachanun today.
Oh, very good. So
We didn't hear.
oh, so I heard just, I think when did I hear it yesterday? It was this morning. Reb Chaim Kanievsky, Olav Shalom, he paskined that you don't say Tachanun today. Also, and he says that there was a Chassam Sofer also who had the same psak, and he based on that they didn't say Tachanun. Okay, so today is in a sense a celebration of Purim Katan which we had yesterday. Anyway, I heard from all over Shabbos from Lubavitcher Rebbe, very interesting. It's no gay to the Indian. Rabbi Shulman said a beautiful observation. The Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim starts with the words Shivisi Hashem lenegdi samid. David HaMelech said those words, that he always imagined that the Shem Hashem, Shivisi Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, not only in concept, but the actual letters. The Arizal says that's what you should do. You should try to imagine the letters Yud Hey Vav Hey opposite you all the time, as if you're confronting Hashem and Hashem is observing you. But it's really not only in front of you, but it's even front, side, and the back. You're surrounded by the Shem Hashem. So when you're walking around with that mentality, you're a different person. You're connected to the Kedusha. You don't say things that you shouldn't say. You don't look at things that you shouldn't look at. And you're a much, much happier person because you're connected. That's the way the Shulchan Aruch starts. In other words, that's before any of the halachas of saying Moda'ani and all that. The first thing is, when a person wakes up in the morning, right away he realizes he's in the presence of the Shekhinah. And the Shekhinah is observing him, and he's surrounded by the Shem Hashem Yud Kei Vav Kei. Okay. So that's the first beginning of the Shulchan Aruch before you actually get into what you have to do. The first thing is your mindset. How do you start the day? What's the mindset when you wake up in the morning? Okay, so David HaMelech said, Shivisi Hashem lenegdi samid. Always I feel as if I'm in the presence of the Shem Hashem. Good. That's beginning. The end, what's the last halachas in Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim? What we spoke about just before, Purim Katan. Purim Katan is the last part of Orach Chaim in the Shulchan Aruch. And you know how it ends off? Leiv Tov Mishte Tamid. A person has a good heart. He's as if he's always in a atmosphere of a party. He's always happy. A person with a good heart is always happy. Leiv Tov Mishte Tamid. So the Lubavitcher Rebbe said, it's very interesting. You have Tamid at the beginning of the person's day, the way the Shulchan Aruch starts, Shavis Hashem Negdi Tamid, and it ends with Tamid. Leiv Tov Mishtet Tamid. You have the Tamidis at the beginning and the end. So he says, how can you have both? Tamid means constant. There's no stop. I mean, you can have a pause, but you're always there. A korban tamid was brought every single day in the base of Mikdash, morning and night. Doesn't mean every hour of the day is a korban, but you had a consistency. So you have a consistency, leiv tov mishte tamid, to always be happy, have a good heart, be happy, and also shavisi Hashem lenegdi samid. So how do these two go together? That's exactly how they go together. If a person is on the right path, he has the right frame of mind, that he's in Hashem's presence, that will give him a simcha. That will give him a simcha. You know why it gives a person a simcha? I'll tell you why. Listen to this. It's very interesting. A person is made up of, actually, let's call it, in very, very large, begadol, two sections. He has the neshama and he has the guf. The guf, the body, is like any other body. It's the animal side of the person, and the body wants its comfort, it wants its satisfaction, it wants its pleasure. That's what the body wants. It seeks self-enhancement. That's what the body wants. It wants to feel good, it wants to feel happy, it wants to feel comfortable. That's what the body wants. Now, the body is not interested, but the body itself, not interested whether it's right or wrong. The body just knows what it needs and what it wants. The body wants warmth, so the body needs that warmth, and the body itself doesn't have a Yetzer Tov and a Yetzer Hara inside it. How do I get the warmth? The body knows that it wants warmth. Now that, of course, can lead a person to off the path, because you might want to satisfy the body, and it doesn't make a difference how you do it. It might have to go through means which are not approved by the Torah. But so that's what the body is. Then you have the neshama side. The neshama side is, now to understand this, if you have to split the body and the neshama is very, very rational. The body is not rational. The body is emotional. The body is a feeling kind of a force in the body. But the mind, the chokhmah, the neshama, that's all rational. Why do I say that's rational? Because where does chokhmah come from? Chokhmah comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What do you? If I had to describe Hashem, what word would I use to describe Hashem as close as I could? Would I say something which is animalistic or physical or emotional to describe Hashem? Chalil v'chas. If I want to describe something as close as I could come to Hashem, it would have to be something which is very, very rational, very, very genius, very, very mindful. It's not something which has to do with physicality, with emotion, with body. It's the way perfection is. Whatever perfection is. We in Torah have no specific word for Hashem. We use the word or Ein Sof, infinite. Infinite. That's the way we describe Hashem. It's not something positive, it's something where Hashem is just there. It's an infinite existence. We have no words that we can attribute to Hashem to describe Hashem, indescribable. But that existence is something which is genius. It's super, super genius. And that's where we get our chokhmah from. That's where the neshamas come from. That's super, super genius. So, if you want to have simcha, real simcha, you want to have, as it says in the Shulchan Aruch, leiv tov mishtet tamid, you want to have a feeling of happiness, that's simcha, you have to have the beginning also. Shivisi Hashem lenegdi samid. That is what will give you the result. Don't think if you satisfy your bodily needs and your emotional needs, you'll have simcha. You'll have it maybe momentarily, but it's not something that will stick with you. But this kind of simcha, if you get the simcha from the rational side, from the chokhmah side, that's since it's connected much, much more so to Hashem than the body of everything comes from Hashem. But this is much closer to the essence of Hashem, the chokhmah side. Then the simcha will be tamidi. So that's what the Lubavitcher Rebbe said. It's very interesting that the two tamidim begin Orach Chaim and end Orach Chaim. Shavisi Hashem lenegdi samid and leiv tov mishtet tamid. Both of them. Okay, so that was Nogea to Purim Katan. So Purim Katan, and in the same Sikha that the Rebbe gave, Purim Katan, is very interesting because all the regular Purim is connected to some kind of Maisa. The regular Purim, you have a Purim Suda, you have Mishloach Manos, you have all kinds of halachas. But Purim Katan, there's no halachas. What do you do on Purim Katan? You don't do anything on Purim Katan. All you do is that one thing, what? Simcha. Simcha without anything else. That's what you do. So therefore, in a sense, the inyan of Simcha on Purim Katan is maybe even greater than the Simcha on the regular Purim, even though it doesn't work out that way, because when we have the actual Purim Suda, so we're much happier then. But the actual halacha of Simcha is much clearer and much more important and applicable now than it is when the next Purim will come, because then you have all the other halachas to do. Manos, listen to the Megillah, and so on and so forth. So you're busy. But here you're not busy at all with Purim Katan. Just be happy, that's all. So it's a greater concentration on the Simcha itself. Yeah.
I don't understand the real meaning of Lev Tahor. What do we mean by Tahor in this case?
Lev Tov, I think it says Lev Tov. Lev Tov.
Lev Tov.
Lev Tov. I mean, a good heart. I think if I remember correctly, Lev Tov Mishal Tov. I think so. Lev Tov, not Lev Tahor. Maybe, but anyway, if it would be Lev Tahor, it means, I would say, to have a good heart and be very, very considerate of others, not only of yourself. That would be a Lev Tahor, a pure heart. Not to think of yourself. That's not pure. That's very, very selfish, to think only of yourself. That's not a Lev Tahor. That's selfishness. Lev Tahor means to be good because of, have a good heart for goodness itself. And even if you're not involved, if it's not for you, you would even be willing to sacrifice for others for a Lev Tahor. Or Lev Tov, they would be very, very closely related. Lev Tov, Lev Tahor. Okay, that's that. Now we go into Baal Shem Tov, Rabbi Sai. That's what we're here for. That's the main reason. All right, so if you have the pages in front of you, I stapled 2 pages together because they both are needed. And the Baal Shem Tov tells us here, in all of our davening, there's 3 important things that we have to remember all the time. And these are, let's call it the fundamentals of the way davening works. You need 3 components to have a successful davening. And the 3 things are called Hafna'ah, Havdalah, and Hamtaka. Hafna'ah means humility. The second one is separation from all kinds of negative forces. And the third thing is Hamtaka, to elevate what we have down here, elevate it back up to Shemayim.
Who's Mori?
Huh?
Who was his Mori?
Who is about?
Shamati mi Mori.
Well, this was, let's say, who wrote this, took at the end of the piece, who wrote it? Let's see. I'll tell you and myself. This sefer that we're using is a likut from the Talmidim of the Baal Shem Tov.
Okay.
So I'll tell you who he says this. Who's the end of the piece?
He refers to the Baal Shem Tov.
Yeah, 1 minute, let me see. Who is writing this? This is the Toldos Yaakov Yosef. This is one of his big Talmidim.
Oh, yes.
Rabbi Yosef Polania, I think.
Polania, yes.
Polania. He heard this from the Rebbe himself. Okay. So let's see what it says on the bottom. We're not going to have a chance to look at the top because anyway, we have too many pages. But the bottom, Makor Mayim Chaim has it, and it's quite an interesting piece. So in front of you in Pei Gimel, Ubeleket Imrim Peninim, Dafresh Vav Amadalit, Hetik Inyin Zeh Veherich Bo Ma'od, Bezel Shalom. Shamaiti Mimori, the Inyan Tikunei tefillah tzrichin hachnoa havdala hamtaka. Shetzorach lasos b'kol teva. Now, understand this, Rabbi Say. What he's saying here is that you have to have consciously, you have to apply these three concepts to your davening. Now, when he says that, automatically we get back to our old problem. What's the old problem? You go to shul and you have a minyan that starts at a certain time. You have a minyan, 7 o'clock minyan, 6 o'clock minyan, whatever it is. And you know the minyan starts this time, and afterwards there's going to be another minyan coming in. Or you know that you pick the 6 o'clock minyan because at 7 you've got to be out. You're on the way to do this, to do that, to work, whatever it is. You have appointments, you have things to do. So your davening is a davening which is governed by the clock. Now let me ask you this again. I have to go over this over and over and over again because it's so opposite of the way Jews live. Do you think the Baal Shem Tov and his Talmidim, if they davened, they had a clock on the wall, looking to see, what time is it and how long is Shmon Esrei going to take and who's coming in the second minyan? Yeah, do you think they had a clock on the wall? They didn't have any clocks in those days at all. I don't even know if they had, regular watches in the Baal Shem Tov's times. I don't know how they knew time. But anyway, when you're speaking to somebody who is the Gadol Hador, whatever you want to call it, I don't know, you want to call him Rav Moshe Feinstein, Olav Shalom, you want to call him Rav Adi Yosef, whatever you want to pick, the Gadol Hador. You go in and you have to wait a month to get an appointment. You can't just get in. Everybody wants to get in. It takes a month to get an appointment. Now you get in there, and you take out your watch and look at your watch to see how long you get in there, you're totally focused. You've been rehearsing in your mind what you want to say, what you want to ask, and you want to hear what he has to say. That's it. You're not looking at your watch. If you'd be looking at your watch, I told you the other day, I remember that I said it here last week or 2 weeks ago. There was a fellow who had a court case in America. He had a court case. In the middle of his case, he's standing in front of a judge, and his phone went off. It started to ring. The judge got so upset. You're coming to me in a court case and your phone rings? He lost the case. He lost the case. This is not respectful. You come into a court, you don't have enough cycle to turn off your phone beforehand. So from that time on, he said, I go to shul from now on. I'm not even taking my phone into the shul. I learned from that case. Hashem gave me a lesson. If I'm talking to a regular judge, who knows what he is? It could be a real Eismarf. Who knows what he is? This person, what he does when he's not here in court. And here he came upset with me. I lost the case. I'm talking to the Rebbeinu Shalom. I'm going to have my phone. He left his phone outside. No more phone inside the shul. So, just think of that for a moment. What happens to us? It's a big problem. Something that you do on a continuous basis, on a daily basis, over and over and over again, it loses its grandeur, it loses its majesty. But we have to realize that we have an audience with Melech Malchei HaMelachim, with the King of Kings, with the Master of the world. He's got life and death in 1 second in his hands. How can you be looking at the clock when you're davening? How do you look at the clock? How do you look at your watch, worried about the next minyan where you have to go afterwards? You have to have total focus. Total focus. In other words, when you're davening to Hashem, you don't know anything else. You don't know who's on the right side, who's on the left side. You don't know anything else. You're totally involved. As you mentioned a number of times, What's your name? Excuse me. Ovadia? Ovadia. Ovadia said, if you're davening properly, you shouldn't hear anything. You shouldn't hear it. You shouldn't hear the Chazor says shots. You shouldn't hear anything. You're so involved, entrenched in your davening, you're so connected, you don't hear anything. People who do meditation, that's the way they are. When they're doing meditation, they're trying to connect to the spiritual world, they're out of it, completely out of it. They don't know anything, don't hear anything. They're completely focused, completely focused. That's the way you have to be. This is so far away from what's going on. You have to realize it's very difficult. I understand. I'm talking to you and I'm talking to myself as well. I also go to minyanim. They have a clock. There's a minyan at this time. Right afterwards, another minyan is coming in. I know what it is exactly. But I know what's right and what's wrong. Baruch Hashem, 10 years ago, this sefer that I have in the Baal Shem Tov, I had this in my house 20 years, 30 years. I kept it on the shelf and I would look at it once in a while to see what he says on the parsha, whatever it is. And then 10 years ago, I opened it up and I see he has a whole section on davening. I never really looked at it. So I started to learn it. I said, after learning this, I said, I've been fooling myself all my life. And I'm going to shul since I'm 2 years old. My father took me to shul at the beginning when I was 2 years old. And I'm going to shul all my life, and I'm seeing Rabbanim and davening here. And I'm learning this, and I said, I've been fooling myself. I thought I understood what davening is all about. Sure, you have to daven with kavanah, this and that. Okay, that I knew also. But once I saw the Baal Shem Tov, what davening is, it explains really. And this is not just a nice practice. It happens to be a mitzvah. It's one of the Taryag mitzvahs. Chazal say, what is avodah shebalev? Avodah shebalev is tefillah. So our problem is that when you do something often enough, it loses its special quality. Very difficult. Very difficult. I agree. It's very difficult. But I would say, since you daven 3 times a day, take one of the tefillos. There would be a compromise. Take one that you're not going to look at the clock. And you're not going to care about how long it takes. You're going to just do it the right way. Whether it's Shachris, Mincha, or Ma'ariv. Anyone you pick. Anyone you pick, is that this davening is going to be a davening like it's supposed to be. At least once a day, I want to be able to do it the right way. Then the words of the Baal Shem Tov make sense. What does he say again?
Can you explain, please,
Yeah.
the proper meaning of Achna'a, Abdallah, and Mamtaka?
Hamtaka. Hachna means, the translation is like humility. Humility. It's like anava. Hachna. Havdalah means separation.
Yeah.
And Hamtaka means to sweeten. To sweeten.
Yeah.
That's what the words translated mean. So he says this has to be in every word you have to say. But this should be something which is automatic. This is the way your mind should be working. What am I going to do? What am I going to do now in the coming tefillah? First thing is I have to have humility. I have to have humility. There's a minyan that I daven in. And very often, I don't like to daven in that minyan because a couple of the people there who are Balei Tefillah, they like to go there and be the Baal Tefillah. A person is a Baal Tefillah, that means to say, while he's a Shliach Tzibur, he's supposed to sort of like be the leader, the Shliach of the Tzibur, and he's supposed to influence the Tzibur. The way he davens is going to influence the way they respond. If he davens properly, they will all respond properly. They'll follow him because he is the leader of that tefillah. And this means that I daven in, some of these people who get up there, they're standing to an esrei, saying Shliach, saying the Chazor Hashatz out loud, and I hear the way they're talking, the way they're saying it. They're giving orders to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They're not asking. They're giving orders, commanding orders. But you do what I say. This is the way they daven. It's disgusting to me. Disgusting. Mamish disgusting. This is the Shliach Tzibur, but this is the way you're supposed to daven. And this is here in Yerushalayim, in Kodesh. They daven in such a way, with such a tone of voice, as if they are telling Yerushalayim what you have to do. Terrible. The first thing Baal Shem Tov says is Achna'ah. When you stand in front of Ribono Shel Olam, every word has to be said with humility. You have to be thankful that you are able to stand in front of him and he's willing to listen to you. That's the first thing, Hachna. Then you have Havdalah, separate yourself from all of the distractions, and then Hamtaka, then the tefillah that you send up will be sweetened. It will make a tikkun.
But this is the consequence. It's not the.
That's what. Well, you hope that will be the result. You hope that will be the result. Hamtaka. Teva. Every word has to have those three components. Kasavti mokamacher, shemaiti mimore, ech b'kol os. Listen to this, what he's saying here. Very interesting idea. B'kol os, in every letter of the Aleph base, nichlu kol ha'osios. You hear this, what he's saying? Every letter of the Aleph base that you mention, it's not one letter by itself. Every letter contains all of the 20. How many letters are there in the Aleph base? 22. Chav base. Every letter contains all the 22. He explains why. Listen. Ki shoresh kol ha'osios hu os Aleph. The first, the root, the father of all the letters is an Aleph. That's the first letter. Aleph. Okay? Aleph. V'hu karov la'achdus or Ein Sof. It's the first letter that Kodesh Baruch Hu gave us. It's the closest to Hashem. It's the first one that came out. And therefore, it's number one, like Hashem is number one. And therefore, it's the closest to the infinite, to the Ein Sof. Achar kach nispashlu v'nislapshu zeh b'zeh. What does it mean to say? Ad she'os beis hu shnei alefim. So what is Os Beis? It's a new letter. Os Beis is a new letter. But what it means is that the Aleph diluted itself. Everything was contained in, all the 22 letters are contained in the Aleph. When the Aleph comes out, it's like the father. The father of a family has in his seed all of the descendants that will come from him. His children, grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren, all the generation, they're all contained in his seed. The father has it in his seed. It's going to be developed in time. So he says the first Aleph is the father of all of the letters. It has all 22 letters inside it. And after the Aleph came out, when Hashemayim, the first letter came out of Hashemayim, then it developed into a base. It diluted, came out of the Aleph, and it became a base. So the base has really, it's two Alephs. That's what it really is, an Aleph, and then the other Aleph, which is represented by an outcome of the first Aleph. Shnei Alephim. Then you go all the way down to Ois Taf, Tuf, and there means to say that it is the diluted Aleph base all the way down to the end, and it's the weakest of all the letters. It came out, the last letter of the Aleph, it's the weakest. Like the first seed, let's say, that comes out would be the strongest. And the one that comes out last would be the weakest. So the last one that came out was a Tuf. So he says, but that Tuf, don't think it's an independent Tuf. That Tuf is really part of the Aleph, but it's like many kisuyim, many covers. It has the Tuf, it has the Shin, it has the Resh. They're all covering it up. And what's on the very inside, at the very deepest, 22 levels inside is the Aleph. So the Aleph expands it. Beis, Gimel, Daled, and they're all covering up the Aleph. Hey, Vav, Zayin, going out a further level, and in the very inside, the inner core is the Aleph. And they're all covering it up. They are weaker, they are expanded, further away from the Aleph, but they're all being powered by the Aleph. The Aleph is the inner core of them all, and these are all considered to be like cover-ups, disguises, masquerades, covering up the true Aleph in the center. It says all the way down to Ostov. Hu levushim v'kisuyim shenislabesh v'nistater or ein sof. What's inside the Aleph? Don't forget that. Inside what gives the Aleph gives it its identity, the Aleph, is the infinite Hashem himself. He put out the Aleph, so he's inside the Aleph. And that Aleph is the father of all the other Aleph bases, all the letters of the Aleph base. So the Aleph is the Or Ein Sof, and it says, Ba'arba Meos Levushin Viki Suyin. Why he say Arba Meos? It's really 22, but he means tough is 400. The number of tough is Gematria of 400. So as if to say there was layers upon layers upon layers of the Ein Sof, which is on the inner core. Now, the fact that this Os Tov is the furthest away, it also has a weakness to it. Now, let me give you an example what that means. It has a weakness to it. You go to sleep at night, you wake up in the morning. When you went to sleep at night, you did your mitzvahs all day long, you daven, you put on tefillin, said Birchas Hamazon, you learn Torah. You go to sleep at night, you're a holy person. You accumulated a lot of mitzvahs. When you go to sleep, and all of a sudden, everything is all of a sudden gone. You have a complete hesach hadas, and your mind is in another world. And you don't have, in your conscious mind, you don't have anything there now. It's all in the subconscious. You wake up in the morning, it's very interesting. Wake up in the morning, what happens to you between the time that you wake up and the time when you were asleep? What happens when a person's asleep? When a person's asleep, all of the kedusha that he accumulated all day long, from his davening, from his mitzvahs, whatever he was doing along, all of a sudden it all left. So the kedusha leaves the person, and a person cannot be a vacuum. There's no such thing. This word vacuum that we have in English, which is an open space, is only a word which is relative. It's not absolute. You ask any scientist today, they'll tell you that a vacuum is not empty. Space, even outer space, is not empty. There are components, chemical components, whatever you want to call them, that make up space. Space is something which is also a positive thing. It's not just an absence. It's a positive thing. Something makes up space. Now listen to this. I'm going to tell you something that I hope you'll remember it when it comes to the Seder, Pesach night. In the Seder Pesach night, in the Haggadah, you say, Baruch HaMakom, Baruch Hu. What does that mean? Baruch HaMakom, Baruch Hu. What is that? What does it mean? Baruch HaMakom. The place should be blessed. What does it mean the place should be blessed? And then why do I say Baruch Hu right afterwards? What does that mean? You know what it means? I'll tell you what it means. What does Makom mean? Makom means space. An area, a space, area. Why do I say Baruch HaMakom Baruch Hu?
It's also the name of God.
Oh, that's the answer. Because Makom is only a word which disguises the truth. Space is really God himself. Baruch HaMakom Baruch Hu. Makom, when we consider it to be space, a vacuum, Hashem is there in the space. If Hashem would be there in the space, there would be no space, whatever that means. But space is occupied by Hashem as well. It's very important to remember that. Space is occupied by Hashem. There is no such thing as real space, an absence of everything. It's a complete vacuum. There's no such thing as a complete vacuum. Because before the world was created, the physical world was created, what existed? Only Hashem. And we have no way to describe that existence, so we call it the infinite. We call it Ein Sof. But there is something there which is indescribable. That indescribable quality is what takes up space. It's nothing that we can feel or we can understand in physical terms, but maybe scientists would be able to tell you that in space you always have some kind of chemicals, of gases, or something that occupy space. There's no such thing as space being totally, totally void of everything. Can't be such a thing.
What about the black holes?
Black hole has to have something in it also.
The scientists arrange that we are made from stuff, from space stuff.
Yeah, I mean, not of course, of course.
A black hole is called black because light cannot escape it. So there's things in it, but we can't see them.
Okay. No question in my mind. There is no such thing in reality as complete absence, complete void. There is no such thing. Because the end of the day is Hashem is occupying everything. And that's what we're saying in the Haggadah. Baruch HaMakom, Baruch Hu. Hashem is in Makom. Makom, space, is really a manifestation of Hashem, that a word that we use. That's all it is. It's a word that we use, but it really means He's there. Hashem is there. So he says here, now, going back to what we just said before. The person goes to sleep at night. He has all the mitzvahs of his day accumulated, and now they all gone. He went to sleep. He went to sleep. So is there a vacuum? Is there a void there? No. There's no void. Where the Kedusha was before is now occupied by other forces. These are called forces of Tumah. Before you had in you, because you're awake and alive and you're functioning, and you're saying Shema Yisrael, and you're putting on tefillin and tzitzis, and you're doing mitzvahs, and you're saying brachas, so you're occupied by Kedusha. But when you go to sleep, all that leaves. So when that leaves, there's no such thing as an empty space. It's immediately occupied by the Tumah. The kochos of Tumah, the negative forces, take over. They now occupy the place that was occupied by Kedusha. They are now occupying it with the Tumah. Okay. So that's when you're asleep. But all of a sudden you wake up. When you wake up, your heart starts to work faster, your mind starts to work. You say, Moda ani lefanecha melachai v'kayam. What happened to the tumah that was there in the meantime? What happens is it flies away. It cannot be, when you're saying Moda ani, when you're thinking of Hashem, you have to get up, you have to go to shul, you have to say this, you have to do that. The tumah that occupied when you had that void now flies away.
So why did you not sit down?
Ah, excellent. You hear that, Kasher? Yaakov asks, why do you have to wash your hands? The answer is because it only flies away from the center of you. That's where you have the main concentration of the Kedusha. But on the fringes where the Kedusha is very weak, the tumah sticks. And that's why we have to wash our hands. Because the tumah still attaches itself to the fringes, to the edges of our hands where it's weaker. That's like the Tov. The Aleph has the maximum concentration of the Kedusha. All the letters are contained in the Aleph. The seed, the children of the Aleph, are the rest of the letters. When you finally get to the Tov, the last letter, it's the weakest of all the olives, and that's where the kochos of Tumah can attach themselves. To the last letter where it's weakest, just like they attach themselves in the morning to your fingers, means they didn't attach themselves. They were there on your body at night, but they only run away from the center. On the fringes, they still remain. That's why we have to wash our hands alternately to take off the Tumah from the hands. Yeah.
Is it not a good idea to die at night?
One.
What do you mean? Is it not a good idea? What do you mean?
Well, for Kedusha life. I mean, that-
One second. First of all, what do you mean the good idea? You don't have a choice.
Okay.
You have no choice. I mean, you're not allowed to kill yourself. I mean, you have no choice. I mean, a person wants to go on living, right? If he wants to accomplish more than the next day, other things. Doesn't want to give up his life. Hashem,
Has no-
If
has no-
the Kedusha leaves at night
yeah.
and you die at night. what's-
Well, you don't die. You don't die. Why do you say you die?
That's what I'm asking.
No, you don't die.
Person who
A
does.
person doesn't die. He just has less kedusha in him than he did in the day. Yeah, he doesn't die.
He taught me to say Kel Ruchot,
Right.
but you should say after you said the Netilas Yadayim, because you say the name of God.
Well, okay. Before you said the brachas, you say Elokeinu Kruchos. Right.
Okay.
Right. Yaakov Meir was saying we gave out here once a sheet, and the contents of the sheet was a few lines making a request to Hashem in the beginning of before you say any brachas. You ask Hashem in the schus of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov to give you a clear mind, to prevent all kinds of strange thoughts entering your mind. This is a very, very common everyday problem. That no matter how hard we try, if we don't really concentrate hard, all kinds of things enter our minds while we're talking, while we're saying brachas. Other things are in our mind, and we just do it habitually, but we're not concentrating. This is very disrespectful. You're making a bracha to God, you're thanking Hashem, and your mind is not there. Just imagine if someone says to you, thank you for something, you did him a favor. Yes, thank you. And he's just saying it with his mouth, but his mind is someplace else, and his eyes are someplace else. How does it feel to you? He wants to express thanks to you, but he's fooling you. He's fooling himself. He's just doing it because that is the proper thing to do, but his mind is not there. He doesn't do it with his heart. So, of course, you don't appreciate it at all. You look at him and says, I did you a favor, and you can't give me an honest, sincere thank you. You say just thank you, but lip service, and you're thinking something else altogether. What is it worth? Not worth anything. So therefore, we make this little bakasha in the morning. I also say it every morning. I have this sheet at home. I take it out. I wake up in the morning, go to the Sherutim. Before I wash my hands. Before I make the bracha on Netilas Yadayim and Asher Yatzar, I say this little capital there, Elokeinu Ruchos, asking Hashem to help me to be able to say things with kavanah and without disturbance. I try my best. That's a little thing you can do. So it helps. Certainly helps. That's not perfect, but it helps. Okay, so he says here that the Aleph base, the last letter of the Aleph base is the Taf, and because it's the Taf, hu ha'achron v'rachok min ha'ma'atzil, it's the furthest away from the emanator, from Hashem, from Ein Sof, bekama kisuyin, ubekama levushin, ubekama hesteros. So you don't realize it, that the Taf, the last letter of the Aleph base, is really covering up all of the other letters, and the Aleph, which is the main letter at its core, and the Aleph has in it the koach of Ein Sof. Ad shiyonek, look, here he brings it in again, what we just spoke about. Ad shiyonek misham Esav v'arba me'os ish. Because the Taf is the weakest, and it's the furthest away from the Aleph, it's the fringes of the Kedusha, the kochas of Tumah in the world, they have yinika, they have a nursing, they have some kind of absorption from that Kedusha. If they didn't have that Kedusha, they wouldn't be able to exist. So they have to have something in them, and that's where they get it from. They get it from the very fringes of the Kedusha, and we have to be aware of that. V'hatzadik. Now here, this is important when he says now, the tzaddik, I mean every one of us here is a tzaddik, because he now knows, sheyodeya, Shalufa shel olam, b'kol tnua or b'kol asar. You hear that, Rabbi Say? What we just spoke about? A tzaddik means a person who has awareness of the true existence. Sha'alufo shel olam, the master of the world, the general of the world, b'kol tnua, he is in every movement. What is every movement? Everything in the world that moves. Ub'kol atar, and in every place. V'les asar ponui minei mamish. Hear that what we just said? Baruch hamako, baruch hu. There is nothing in the world, there is no place in the world that is absent from Hashem's presence. If you walk around with that, you're a different person. You're a different person. I tell you something else the Baal Shem Tov said. This awareness that we just spoke about, this is awareness of the truth, emes la'amito. This awareness that Hashem occupies every millimeter, every molecule of the existence, inside us, outside us, all over. When you get that really absorbed into your mind, not just listening to it in a shir, but you get it into your mind and you realize this world is a lot different than where I thought it was. It's a different world. I'm understanding now the true content of the world. What's going on? All of these things I see, spaceships and planes and missiles and wars, all kinds of things. This is all a cover-up. It's all a cover-up. What's really on the inside is Hashem's existence. That's what's really inside everything. When you get that into your mind sufficiently, the Baal Shem Tov said, you will never be able to leave it. You'll never be able to leave it. No matter what you do, you have to go to work, you have to do things, you have to take care of all kinds of chores, all kinds of things. If you have that in your mind, the way it's supposed to be, it'll always be there. You can never leave it because you cannot detach yourself from the truth of truths. That is the real emes la'amito. You cannot detach yourself from that. You want to be attached to it. It therefore is going to change your entire existence. Everything will change. And that's true. He's so right. Once you get that awareness and you have that really inside you, you cannot leave it. You can't leave it. Even if your mind gets distracted for a moment, you'll come right back to it. The way you walk will be different. The way you think will be different. The way you speak will be different. Everything will change. Because you don't want to have a disrespect to that awareness that is constantly. I mean, today you go in the street, all over the place there's cameras. You don't even know. All over the place there's cameras. The area sets up cameras all over for traffic violations. All over there's cameras, in the homes, in the houses, wherever you go. You don't even know you're being photographed. You have to realize that's only a simon. That we're constantly in the spotlight. We're being photographed 24/7. Even when we sleep, we're being photographed. Everything is recorded. There's nothing that is left out. Nothing. Your entire life, from the beginning, the day you're born, until you leave this world, is all recorded. Every act, every second. There's nothing that's left out. Nothing left out. So once you have that realization, you cannot be the same person. You can only be, if you have the right attitude, as it says, Leiv Tov, Mishta Tamid. You're always happy. Because you know you are connected to the truth. And therefore, that's what you want. You want the truth. And therefore, you'll always be happy. If tu Hashem b'simcha. That's the way you should be. But you have to be careful. Also be careful. Why does I be careful? Don't think that you could tell other people about this. Very, very difficult. Very, very difficult. You have to realize first of it yourself. You have to live it yourself. And then on very, very rare occasions, when you have the opportunity to speak to somebody who is close to you, privately, you have a conversation, so maybe then you can reveal this kind of information to them. Otherwise, people will think to you, oh, you're such a fanatic. Come on. You know, too much. What do you, go on with life. Stop this. This is not something you could talk to other people about. It's a very, very sensitive area. Very sensitive. The first thing is to become really, really involved in it oneself and make sure that it's totally absorbed in you. Once you have this total absorption in you, then you really are aware of what it means to be a Jew. Until that time, it's a joke. It's something like I had this awakening 10 years ago when I picked up the Baal Shem Tov and started to learn it, and I realized I'm going to shul since I'm 2 years old. I remember my father took me to shul. I remember the shul that he took me to, and the people who sat in the shul. There was a man who used to give me a candy every Shabbos. I remember that. And I realized after picking this up, it's a joke. I was fooling myself my entire life. I thought I understood what davening is about. I didn't know. It opened up a whole new world. So this new world that we're talking about right now, you have to be very, very careful. Keep it to yourself. It's too precious, very, very valuable. It's worth all the money in the world as you could imagine. Worth everything. And be careful not to try to preach it to others, because you have to have a very special environment, a special person that you can give it over to. You can't give it to everybody. Not everybody is ready for it. It won't go with it. It'd be a waste of time. It has to be a very, very special occasion, very special person that knows you well, that then you can give it over. But you have to be very, very careful with it. Okay. So anyway, says the Baal Shem Tov further, a tzaddik she'odea she'alufa shel olam b'chol tnuah b'chol asar. A tzaddik, and all you all hear tzaddikim, that knows that the master of the world is involved in every action that's in the world. What do I mean every action? It means every ant that claws on the ground, the trillions of stars and the planets in all of the constellations, every movement, everything that moves, every raindrop that comes down, and there are trillions and trillions of raindrops, everything, every movement, and the Atlantic Ocean. Can you count the drops of water in the Atlantic Ocean? Every drop, every movement, it's all Hashem. Everything. All Hashem. B'kol tenuah, or b'kol asar, and there's nothing which is absent from a Kadosh Baruch Hu who's occupying that place. All space. Once you have that, then you're a tzaddik and you have come to the truth. You have come to the truth. Now you understand what the world is about in its essence. And I think we'll have to stop over here now at that point. And I hope these words will go into your heart. They came out of my heart, from my yotzim and alev. And I hope they went into your heart, and they'll go from your heart into your mind, and you'll be thinking about it all the time. All the time, not just today. Okay.
You